All right, we're back live streaming. It's been a little bit less than a week, um, but I haven't talked about football in a while. It's been a while since I've talked about football. We got a little bit of a new setup here. Not really, actually. I just added this light, the donut sign. Um, I've had it for a while. It just hasn't been back there. Um, yeah, I think we're getting more locked in. We got more locked in on the lighting. The audio should be a little bit better, I think. Hopefully. Maybe the lighting's a little bit better. Maybe the webcam looks awesome. Year. Yep, we're going to be talking about football. We're doing the week 5 and the week 6. Well, week 5 recap. We're going to be going through all my week 5 picks, going about why I picked them, why I thought they were going to win, and then why they did win or why they lost. And then for the week 6, we're going to talk about the preview. I'm going to pick teams and why I think they're going to win, and we're going to go in depth on probably just a few teams. I can't really go in depth on every team, if that makes sense. So we'll get into that. Oh, I'm receiving a very important phone call. So hello, hello. It's all good. Yes. All right. No problem. All right. So before we get into the stream, I have to send Cassandra a picture of the grocery list. So I'll be right back, and we'll get into it once I am back. So you guys join up, and we'll talk about football. All right, guys, we're back. This is the Week 5 recap. We're going to talk about these teams and why I popped off this week. I've been staying right around. This is my same percent in rank as last week. I've not really fluctuated at all. So I think I'm going like, I don't know, pretty even. Normally, like, I think I'm like 50-50 or like give or take. So like, I'll be like, I don't know, 10 and not 10. What is it? 9 and 5. Depends on how many weeks there, like how many games are played or whatever, right? Or like 8 and 8 or whatever. So, all right. So let's get going. Let's get rolling. Uh-oh. There we go. All right. Making sure everything's going good. So I picked the Falcons to beat the Bucks. I felt like the Bucks had a really good game the week prior versus the Eagles, which was really awesome to see. But like, it was a game versus the Eagles where they were missing like all of their star players, right? And the Falcons, I felt like were kind of due for a big performance, which they came up big in this one, right? I felt like they were always just like a few plays away, or like just like a bunch of unfortunate things happening, and that this would be the game where things started to click, and Kirk Cousins would get on page again with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan and every weapon that they got there on offense, right? Because this offense is really loaded, I think. Um, Although I think I did pick like the Saints to win the division, right? So that's okay though. The Falcons did do it though. They won this game. Kirk looked really good. He was really accurate. He looked awesome in this one. I didn't think Bijan was too crazy in this one. I don't know what's going on with Bijan, but it is what it is. Both offenses played really good. The Bucks kind of just fell apart in the fourth quarter. We saw that whole fourth quarter collapse where they really just choked it away, and the Falcons got the ball back, and they were able to kick the field goal, go into overtime, and win in overtime. They just drove right down the field and won the game. So I think the Falcons' offense is really super loaded, and I think the Bucks are kind of just right behind them. Their defense is a little bit better, I think, than the Falcons, but their offense isn't. I don't think Baker's as good as Kirk Cousins, right? And the run game for the Falcons is a lot better than the Bucks. So that is what it is, right? So next up, I picked the Vikings to beat the Jets, and I actually was really on the fence on this one. I'm still just on the fence with the Vikings and the Commanders and some other teams, and we'll go into that a little bit later. But for this one, I was just like, man, it's the London game, the Vikings defense. Are they going to be able to confuse Aaron Rodgers? And And last week, the Jets had really struggled really hard against, who did they play? Was it the Patriots? No, so they smacked the Patriots, but then they get smacked by, who did they lose to? I'm not exactly sure. But I do remember the Jets getting smacked the week prior. Or they lost to the Broncos, right? So I was like, dude, maybe they just lose to the Vikings in this one. The Vikings defense is awesome. Brian Flores is on his generational run. He's going through his awesome arc. He's doing so awesome, scheming up the defense and all the blitzes there. Their havoc rate, their havoc percentage is like at an all-time high. Oh, Buzz. Yeah. The havoc rate is insane. They're forcing turnovers. They had the pick six. They're getting pressure on any quarterback in any way, in whatever variety that they want. You know, they're dropping 7 in coverage. They're blitzing 7. They're doing everything and confusing all these offenses that they just don't have answers for them, which by the time they do have answers for them, it's too late, right? The week prior, the Vikings played the Packers. Dude, Reggie, your stepdad is such an OG. He needs to watch the Twitch channel, though, Reggie. And I need to get the homies in the Twitch channel. Where? R6? Durr. Okay, wait. I will play R6 on stream after this if you're down. On PC. But anyway. Nonetheless, your stepdad's a real one. I feel like the Vikings like just have it, right, man? That defense is just so awesome. The offensive line is awesome, and the play caller is awesome, and the weapons are awesome, right? Which is where like the NFL's been trending towards, right? I feel like you get your play caller, you get your coach, you fix your trenches, and then you get your like premium players, and then you find your quarterback, right? But if you get a quarterback that can just play your system, it's perfect, right? So you're seeing like the Seahawks do that right now. The Vikings have already done that. The Texans did that. The Bears have done that. Right, we'll get into some other teams later, right? But it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Jeff! Proud member of the stream, proud member of the YouTube channel. Happy birthday, man. What is Jeff's favorite team? We'll go in depth with Jeff's favorite team after this. Happy birthday, Jeff. So next up. The Vikings defense is awesome. Their offensive line is awesome. Their defense as a whole is awesome, right? Sam Darnold didn't even look good in this one. He was honestly like not very good. But the Jets couldn't get anything going until the fourth quarter. And that's just what this Vikings defense can do. Aaron Jones did go out in this one, so that did have a problem. The Raiders, you have a point. Okay, I can talk a little bit about the Raiders. I'll talk about the quarterback situation and Davante Adams because I traded for Davante Adams in one of my fantasy leagues, so that'll be fun. Next up, there's not a whole lot to say about this one. Bears and Panthers. Caleb Williams proved it. He's a franchise quarterback. He's awesome. He was a generational talent going into the draft. He hasn't proved it yet exactly, I think, for a lot of people, but he can hit crazy throws from a crazy different ton of windows, off platform, in structure. He can kind of do it all, right? He can scramble. He can stay in the pocket, which is something he's proved he can do, and that's like what we've wanted to see. We wanted to see, can Caleb Williams stay in structure, hit throws on time and accurately, and he was able to do it in this week. He did it last week, and he had a bunch of awesome throws in this one, right? So Caleb Williams looked great, and this was a great game to get on track against a very weak Carolina Panthers team. So there you go. Next up, we got the Ravens versus the Bengals. I'll talk about their defense. This is like the worst defense ever, dude. The Commanders' defense is pretty bad. They're like the worst in the league per EPA and DVOA, but the Bengals, like, eye test, it's just like, bro, they can't stop the run, and because of it, they can't stop the pass, right? So it's like they got to load the box, and the cornerbacks are just not good enough on the perimeter to stop Zay Flowers. They weren't good enough to stop, Kohler, Andrews, Likely. The tight end trio was going crazy in this one, right? And then You obviously saw the walk-off, I don't want to say touchdown, the walk-off run by Derrick Henry to get into field goal position for Justin Tucker to win the game, right, off the kick. This Ravens offense is very hard to stop, and it was proven in this week again, but yes, it was against a very weak Bengals defense. However, don't let that distract you from the fact that Joe Burrow is playing his best football, dude. He is a top 3, top 4, I'll say top 4 quarterback, right? He is that guy. He is like the S tier quarterback. He is like a guy you want on your team. He is so accurate, man. That throw to Yushava, how do you say it? Lamar, 3rd MVP, brother? No, dude. I'm sorry. I gotta vote no, right? Is there like, can I even vote yes? Oh wait, the poll already ended. What a cheese poll, bro. No, Lamar's not going for his 3rd MVP. But Joe Burrow could be the MVP with his defense. And I felt like the take is like Joe Burrow might be Drew Brees, dude. Like, bro. He doesn't have the defense. He doesn't have the offensive line. It's looking pretty rough, man. I feel bad. But he looked awesome in this one. He was killer. He was deadly accurate. The throw on the boundary and like that tight window in the corner to Yeshua. I can't say his name, bro. Andre from like Yale or Harvard. He was just awesome. So don't let it distract from you. Their offense is supercharged. And Chase Brown is ready to break out now that Zach Moss got injured. Hopefully he gets better, but yeah. I picked the Patriots to beat the Dolphins. Maybe I shouldn't have. I felt like their defense was better and that they were at home. They just couldn't get anything going on offense. And the Dolphins got enough going on offense, right? Christian Gonzalez is awesome. He's a top 5 cornerback in the league. Some might say he's a top 3, but I think his only problem is he gets stuck in the backfield. He gets stuck locking his eyes on the quarterback, and that's been a problem with just a certain amount of plays, right? But not all his fault, and he's lucked out. But he played great in this game. You know, he picked off Tyler Huntley once. Should have had 2 picks. He was locking up Tyreek Hill almost all games. So, Christian Gonzalez, you got your flowers from me. You were my favorite cornerback in the draft when you were coming out of Oregon. I've been calling you a top 10 cornerback even after that rookie season. You were awesome. I think you do have a little bit of cherry pick stats, however, especially in that Seattle game. So that's just a bone to pick with PFF, right? Go check the All-22 on that one. DK was cooking Gonzo, but he's a top 10 corner. So, and this defense is a top 10 defense. And they are going to be starting Drake May this week, so we'll get into that a little bit later. But Dolphins were able to win it. This isn't going to be a top 5 team in the NFL draft, guys. I don't know what's going on with these mock drafts, but they're going to get Tua back. They're probably going to just miss the playoffs though. So next up, we got the Colts versus the Jags, and the Jags got their first win in like 10 weeks, man. Well, 10 games. Doug Peterson should be fired. Robert Saleh fired. That'll be the thumbnail, by the way, of the recap. Robert Saleh gets fired before Doug Peterson, dude. And it's because the Colts choked this one. If Anthony Richardson plays, which I thought Anthony Richardson was going to play, then they would have won this one. I think it was just that close. Joe Flacco did play a fine game, though. No JT, who I thought might be playing in this one. It was very questionable. I don't think he'll be playing next week either, though. I thought Anthony Richardson was going to play. I thought Jonathan Taylor was going to play. They didn't play, and they lost by 3 in a very crucial division matchup to the 0-4 Jaguars at the time. Trevor Lawrence is still pretty sick. Tank Bigsby was really sick in this matchup, so they were able to get things going, and they won this game against the Colts. So I thought Trevor Lawrence was finally hitting some throws that he should, and they beat the Colts in this one. So next up, I picked the Texans versus the Bills, and maybe the Bills should have won this one, but the Texans were up, 17-0? And Nico Collins went out injured, so they were like without Tank Dell, I think, in this one already, or he was a little banged up at least, and then Nico Collins went down, and Joe Mixon is already out. So with all of that, they were able to fight through everything crawl their way through a victory, right? This Texans team is legit, man. They're awesome. CJ Stroud is awesome. The defense is fucking awesome. It's phenomenal. And that scheme is awesome, which is why Robert Saleh getting fired, same coaching tree, right? It's kind of surprising. We'll get into that, though. This Texans team matching up against Drake May in his rookie debut, man. Yikes, man. Yikes. I don't know, man. What do you guys think? We'll talk about that, though, later. So, Texans beat the Bills. There was the little iffy play calling. I don't think it was that big of a deal, man. You want to get out of your end zone and you want to drive down the field. You're like, all right, let's catch him off with a pass on first down. And then, all right, you don't get that going, and then it's 2nd and 10. I don't know. If you want to go win the fucking game, go throw the ball. You got the best quarterback in like football. Not actually the best, but in your eyes, you got to believe in him to be the best quarterback. It's Josh Allen. He's your MVP. He's Superman. However, he was 9 for 30. He was 9 for 27 going into that drive. And you got James Cook. Maybe run the ball at least once. Josh Allen just missed that throw, though, on 3rd down, and they didn't get the first down, and then the punt wasn't good enough. They returned it, and they were able to get my fantasy football kicker into field goal range, and he nailed it. So, it's a tough one. You got to bounce back next week, and I think they will. So, next up, this week is going to be the last week I pick against the Commanders. Spoiler. But, I thought the Browns defense would get some pressure on the Commanders, and they just couldn't, man. The only one that was able to really show up to play that when I was watching was Denzel Ward was all right or whatever, but Myles Garrett just wasn't a factor. But anyway, so JOK. JOK's a beast, man. He's like one of those guys. Like, he's a top 5 linebacker, dude. He is awesome. But Myles Garrett wasn't getting anything going against Jaden Daniels in this one, and Jaden Daniels still looked just pretty awesome, man. He's able to hit so many crazy throws. And the run game looked awesome. Jeremy McNichols, Boise State legend, had a touchdown. He broke off some good ones. He's awesome in pass pro. Brian Robinson had a couple touchdowns. Austin Eckler broke off a good game. Good gain. This offense is just looking awesome. They're having fun. They're playing great football. And they just got aura, man. And no one saw this coming. And they're just able to win. Maybe we have the Cliff Kingsbury fall off against the Ravens, but we'll see. So, next up, I picked the Raiders against the Broncos. They'll probably win next week because it's the Raiders, right? Sorry, Jeff. Jeff, I didn't watch this game. Reggie, I didn't watch this game. What happened, man? Okay, so I do know PS2 is the best cornerback in football. And can't even be mad about I know, man. It's honestly awesome to watch. Commanders are awesome to watch. It's just fun. It's just fun to watch them play. You know what? I don't want to be a Boise State homer, Reggie, but it's honestly comparable to the Ashton Jeanty run in a way where it's you just gotta watch, man. It's awesome to watch, right? You just want to watch them. They don't even have that aura because it's the Commanders and that organization has always sucked, right? With Dan Snyder. But it's it's just a team that you're wanting to tune in to watch, man. You got to watch Jaden Daniels play football, right? You got to watch Ashton Jeanty play football, right? You just want to watch that team play, and you want them to succeed and you want them to win, and they're doing that. But next up, the Raiders aren't doing that. I don't want to watch the Raiders football. Their defense is fun, but their run game is horrific. Their run game, they just can't get anything going with Zamir White or Alexander White. However, Amir Abdullah, the legend, which I guess people didn't know who it was. Shout out Isaac. He didn't know who Amir Abdullah was. He won me my fantasy league a couple years ago. He was one of those guys I was rotating in and out of my roster week to week. Back in 2015, 2016, my goat. My goat, dude. He had a 20-point week once. And Bo Nix was able to just do it. Bo Nix is just a winner, man. He got angry with Sean Payton, and then he went out there and balled out and got a touchdown. Bo Nix is just kind of a winner. I don't think he's a great quarterback though, but he can just win games, man. He can just will you to win. He's a football guy. He brought his he brought his backpack with the football in this one, and they won. They pulled it out versus the Raiders. Their defense is so awesome though. Riley Moss, the front seven, PS2, not to mention. That defense really turned it around, man. Like from last year getting 70 dropped on your head to this year being a top 5 defense in DVOA and EPA. They're leading all these categories, and Pat Surtain, man, PS2 is locked down. Johnny Football type QB. See, that's what the Commanders type run is, right? It's like that Texas A&M run. And that's kind of what I feel like with Boise State. It's like must-watch football. Commanders are must-watch football. Who was must-watch football last year for college football? I felt like it was nobody. Who was, like, awesome to watch week to week? Like, the year before was, like, Georgia. And this year it's, like, kind of like Texas and Boise State. Like, they're kind of like must-watch football. Ryan Williams is must-watch football. Jeremiah Smith is must-watch football. Next up, we got the Cardinals versus the 49ers. And Brock Purdy did not look good in this one, man. He is first in time to throw at like 3.7. It is something insane, dude. It's like he has all the time in the world, and he's just not able to hit anything at the top of his drop. I think CMC being out is a huge impact, and Brandon Ayuk isn't playing great football, and maybe it's somewhat of a play calling thing. Maybe people are starting to figure out Shanahan. Jonathan Gannon's been really up on the ups with that defense, and Drew Petzing called a pretty good game in this one. Kyler Murray was explosive. He looked really good. The Marv connection I felt like is a little lacking still heading into this, but Marvin Harrison Jr.'s just his double team percentage rate is like insane, especially for a rookie, right? But yeah, the Cardinals are a fun team to watch this year. The 49ers just weren't able to squeeze it out, and Brock Purdy to go drive down the field to win the game wasn't able to get it done through the pick, and the Cardinals won. So this was a fun matchup, though. It looked like the 49ers were going to run away with it, and the Cardinals were able to, crawl their way to a victory and win this game. So, see, yeah, last year's college football just wasn't, like, super awesome. And granted, like, it's hard when Boise State isn't, like, awesome. And we weren't awesome last year. But it was, like, the Heisman winner, like, lost 4 games last year. And, like, USC, like, Caleb Williams kept losing games. Okay, that's what must-watch football was. It was Washington, dude. Washington was, like, must-watch every week with Penix and Odunze. But even, like, they had, like, a bunch of down weeks, dude. Like, where it was, like, 13-20, but, like, it was, like, week to week. Like, Alabama had a good stretch, and, like, Georgia had a good stretch, and Texas had a good stretch. It was, like, very matchup biased. But this year's awesome, so there's a lot of upsets. Next up, Packers versus the Rams. I wasn't too impressed with the Packers in this one. They were without Dobbs and Watson, so maybe that had to do a little bit with it. Kyren Williams is a dog, and Matt Stafford is awesome, but yeah, there's just so many injuries with the Rams that they just didn't have enough talent, I felt like, to beat the Packers in this one, which the Packers were missing some key guys, but their pass rush is just not all the way there yet. I don't know. They've drafted and invested so much into this defense and their front seven that it's just like it's kind of weird that it's just not all the way there. And I feel like they're just trying to throw the ball too much. Like, you got Josh Jacobs, dude. Like, run the ball 20 times a game. Let's see. How much did they run the ball? Like, what was the rushing effect? Okay, so he had 19 for 73, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe give Emmanuel Wilson the ball a little bit more. Give Jacobs the ball a little bit more. Stop slinging the ball down the field so much. However, Jaden Reed and Tucker Kraft are awesome. And they're on my fantasy team, right? So I might be biased to say that. But they are awesome. And they are really awesome. And Luke Musgrave, maybe not as talented as Tucker Kraft, is also a good tight end. And And you do have Dontavian Wicks, who wasn't fantastic in this one, but you got some weapons, and they were able to pull it out against the Rams, right? So I don't really want to talk about this one too much. Giants got away with a missed call on the blocked PAT. They pulled down the center, and they jumped over the center. So they blocked the PAT, got a TD. It is what it is. The Seahawks didn't do enough throughout the game to stop the Giants' offense, who were able to run all over the Seahawks, who were still missing some key guys on the front seven, right? So they ran all over the Seahawks with, that front seven, some key guys missing there, Murphy and whatnot. So the offense also didn't look too great. Ken Walker had like 5 carries, dude. What is that? He had 3 touchdowns last week, dude. Get him the ball more. Talk about a team that needs to run the ball more, dude. Geno throws the ball 50 times a game, dude, and he's leading in passing yards. Let's see, 40 times, dude. Geno Smith led in rushing yards, dude. What? Come on. And that's my big problem is really? Geno Smith is awesome. He's playing great football, but he needs to throw the ball at a maximum 30 times a game. At maximum. And you need to run the ball with Ken Walker at least 15 times a game, minimum. And that was my problem last year. They just wouldn't run the ball enough with Ken Walker. And I know he's injury prone right now, but come on, dude. Run the ball a little bit more. I know you're in this dogfight with the Giants and they're running all over you, but play to your strengths. Right? I think the take is, yeah, they're running the ball, but you can run the ball better. Tracy Jr. was just running all over the Seahawks, but Ken Walker could run all over them. Maybe. Right? Whatever. Okay, so I thought I picked the Cowboys in this one. Did I really not pick the Cowboys? I think the take was the Steelers' defense is awesome, and they're at home on Monday night. So they beat the Cowboys, and they were going to be able to run over that terrible run defense. I think that was the take. But I did go into this matchup watching the game, wanting the Cowboys to win, thinking the Cowboys were going to win. So they didn't win this one. I don't know if I got my Steelers and Cowboys fans in the chat, but you had the rain delay. Dak Prescott. This was such a funky game. This was such a Steelers-esque game, dude. Was this not just the most Steelers game ever? I don't know. You got the rain delay. Fields came out for a little bit. Kyle Allen came in and then you're leading, and then George Pickens was weird, and I don't know, man. This was a weird game. This was just a weird game. Cowboys won it though. There was a weird final possession for them. It was a weird final possession for the Steelers. So, Steelers are just your 9-8 team, and the Cowboys might be 9-8, 10-6, or 10-7. They're right around there, right? Their run defense is a problem. Their defense has a problem. Their run game has a problem. But as long as you got Dak and CD, you're able to win games. And it's the same thing with the Steelers. As long as you're able to run the ball pretty well and play good defense, you're going to win some games. How far is that going to get you in the playoffs? Probably not very far, but it's able to win you some games in the regular season in matchups like this. So next up on the last final matchup, I picked the Chiefs to go 5-0 versus the Saints, and that is exactly what happened in this one. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Mahomes, baby. It's the GOAT. They won this one against all odds, without Rashee Rice, without Hollywood Brown, without your starting running back. And they won. The Saints offense is starting to get figured out. Spags had a masterclass in this one. Mahomes had some freaky plays in this one. He looked great. Granted, he had a couple of freaky bad picks as well, right? But it's Mahomes, man. He'll do whatever it can to win. He sold his devil to do that. So devil magic came out in this one, and they pulled out with a 13-point victory versus the Saints. So that sums it up. We'll go through it. So I picked the Falcons, the Vikings, Bears, Ravens, Pats, Colts, Texans, Browns, Raiders, 49ers, Packers, Seahawks, Steelers, and the Chiefs. And I was dead even in this matchup, which is just fine, I think. 50-50. I'd like to be a little bit better, though. So next up, Week 6, Thursday night matchup. I might take the 49ers in this one, man. They're 6-0 so far. 6-0 against maybe is it 7-1 right now? They're like on a crazy tear against the Seahawks, right? At least since Russ has been gone, they have been killing the Seahawks. Or since like they built up that 49ers defense. Previously, I would have taken the Seahawks in this one, just because I felt like their defense and what they were able to do. I'm going to take them. I'm going to take the Seahawks. I'm locking it in, baby. Lock in the Seahawks, man. Mike McDonald's defense versus the 49ers, which, granted, the Seahawks couldn't stop the Giants last week, and Daniel Jones, who was able to throw the ball all over them. And the Lions were able to throw the ball all over them. I do want to go look at a preview, though. I want to see the injuries in this one. Hopefully this isn't like a flashbang or something. I think injuries might really play a big factor in the Seahawks. They don't have a lot of depth, and they aren't crazy talented, right? So we got an injury report. Holy crap. Is Tariq Woolen going to play? Oh, wait. Okay, so injury report is a bit cleaner. Boye Mafe. Okay, so they all played. Iffy. It's not looking good for Tariq Woolen. They recall. And you should... Oh. Wait, is Tariq Woolen on IR? I'm not even going to try to type. I can't see it. It's dark. I'm taking the 49ers, man. If the Seahawks are without all of that talent on defense, they're going to lose this game. So I'm taking the 49ers bounce back win. This will give them the division lead over the Seahawks, I believe. Unless if the Cardinals win this week. If the Cardinals win this week, they are winning the division. You got two more for R6? Dub! I'm going to guess it's Garrett and Timmy, yeah? That looks like fun. All right. So, yeah, I got the 49ers to beat the Seahawks. Seahawks are so injured in this one, and the 49ers are supercharged all over the place. They have all the Thanos stones. Brock Purdy might be able to tear the defense apart like Goff did and Daniel Jones did, right? So, take the 49ers in this one. I think it should be more heavily picked for the 49ers. I think maybe people are hoping for a Seattle upset. Maybe the Seahawks offense will look great, but like their defense is just not going to be able to hang on, I think, against the 49ers. So next up, I'm going to take the Bears versus the Jaguars. Caleb Williams continues on a roll versus the Jaguars in this one, where their defense has not been good at all this year. I feel like they have a lot of guys everywhere, but they did lose some pieces this year. And like they let up 30 to the Bills, they let up 30 to the Jags, they let up 30, well, almost 30 versus the Texans. Did I say the Jags? I meant the Colts. But yeah, this is not a great defense. They're bottom 5 in EPA, I believe, right now, or it's like they're like bottom 6 or something, like 6th worst. And the Bears are kind of just a fun team, man. I think Caleb Williams is fun. I think DJ Moore is awesome. And Odunze and Keenan Allen and Cole Kmet. And the defense. And Jalen Johnson is playing pretty good football. And the front seven is playing a lot better than they were at the beginning of the season. Granted, they were coming off a game where they weren't playing that great of an offense. However, mind you, the Panthers do have a very good offensive line. They do have a top 5 offensive line in football. So don't get it twisted. The Bears have a great defense. And Caleb Williams is coming into his own. I think he's going to play good in this one. I'd expect at least 2 touchdowns and 200 yards at least versus this game. And DeAndre Swift is finally rolling, man. He's playing good football. He's playing his best football that he's played since he was in Detroit, right? So give it to the Bears, and they're going to go 4-2 in this matchup. Next up, I'm taking a Cardinals upset. I don't think the Packers looked too great last week, and maybe the Cardinals build off some of that momentum last week in that win versus the 49ers. Dobbs should be playing in this one. But I do like the Cardinals' run defense. I think if they're able to slow down the Packers' run offense and make Jordan Love throw the ball a little bit more and get in this little battle with the Cardinals. How is Jair Alexander going to hold up versus Marvin Harrison Jr. will be very fun to watch. And the front seven versus the Cardinals offensive line as well. And how Kyler Murray can scramble as well outside of the pocket and make plays with his feet. He's also been able to hit plays in structure at a better rate than he ever has in his career. So he's been awesome to watch do that. This just kind of seems like maybe a Packers loss in this one, right? After that weird week versus the Rams, where I felt like the Rams could have won it even without all their talent that they're missing, right? So taking the Cardinals in this one. Next up, Colts versus Titans. I think Anthony Richardson should be back in this one. I think they should win it even without Jonathan Taylor. I think their front seven might cause some matchup nightmares against this Titans. You're playing against Will Levis, who I don't think is entirely great against pressure. Are their wide receivers going to play great against this Colts secondary? We'll see. And I think it'll be a very fun matchup with this Colts receiving core versus this Titans secondary, who's looked very good. This Titans defense has looked pretty good. Granted, it's hard to look very good with your offense not performing to the best of their ability. So, Anthony Richardson's just so sick. I think this is a matchup that I'd honestly lock the Colts to beat the Titans in this one. So, I'm also going to lock the Texans to beat the Patriots in this one. I don't know how much you guys want to talk about Drake May getting his first ever start versus the Houston Texans defense, but why not in the last week, dude? Like, get him rolling versus the Dolphins, dude. Like, you should be getting a lot of possessions versus the Dolphins, who are without Tua. So maybe you got the ball more with Drake May and get him rolling, get his stride. And then he's got his first start under his belt. So he's got some momentum. He's got some rhythm with his wide receivers and his offensive line. He's got some plays under his belt so he can go out against this Texans defense. But no, you're going to start him versus this Texans defense. However, if he's your franchise guy, you picked him third, I don't think it's that big of a deal, right? So maybe a little counterintuitive, but he's your guy. You're rolling with him. So you think he's ready. Let's go roll him out against the Texans and hope for the best, right? But C.J. Stroud on the offense is going to be a great matchup, I think, against the Texans or the Patriots in this one. Hopefully Nico Collins is healthy. I'd love to watch Christian Gonzalez versus Nico Collins. I think that'd be awesome. Nico Collins has been like the best wide receiver in football this year, and it would be awesome to watch him play against the Patriots, right? So I'm taking the Texans in this one, but maybe the Patriots defense plays awesome. So we'll see. Next up, I'm going to take the Saints versus the Buccaneers, and they go on a little losing streak here against the Saints. I love the Saints defense. I liked what they were able to do against the Chiefs last week, although they lost. Maybe the Saints get rolling again in a divisional matchup. That's a much-needed victory versus the Bucs. Get some pressure on Baker Mayfield. Make him, turn the ball over. And the Saints, I felt like, have been pretty good against the run. I don't think Kareem Hunt was very efficient last week against the Saints, or last night, rather that. He had like 25 carries for 90 yards and a touchdown, which 90 yards is nice. I have him on my fantasy team, so it's nice to see that. But everybody's taking the Bucs. I need some upsets, and this is a home game and a divisional matchup where I picked the Saints to win the division. So this would probably even things out in the division, right? Everybody would be like, I don't think the Falcons play, right? Oh my God, they got like a... Okay, so the Falcons play. And the Falcons will probably take the division lead with that, right? So Saints will be 3-3 with the Bucs, and they win this one. Next up, I just have to take the Eagles. You got to hope that your wide receivers are back, and even without it, I mean, if Jaden Daniels is able to put up a masterclass versus the Browns, then why not Jalen Hurts? Also, I like that to be said. The Eagles should be able to generate a ton of pressure versus Deshaun Watson, and if that's true, I don't think Deshaun Watson should be too great in this one. He's been very inaccurate. He's thrown some very uncatchable balls. His uncatchable ball rate to Amari Cooper is at 45%. He's at one of the highest rates in the league with all his wide receivers. So, at any rate, I'd like to say maybe Deshaun Watson's probably not your guy, Cleveland. So maybe it's time to roll out Jameis Winston. Maybe he gives you a shot, start slinging the ball. The defense also needs to play better. It isn't all Watson. The offensive line isn't great. The wide receivers aren't perfect. There was some missed passes in this one and some dropped passes as well. The run game isn't great without Nick Chubb. Maybe he comes back in this one and is able to play good against the Eagles, but I got to take the Eagles for this one to go 3-2, right? So next up, I have to take the Ravens in this one versus the Commanders. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I think the Ravens are playing lights out football. Their offense is great, and I think their offense might be better than the Commanders in this one, where the Ravens' defense is better than the Commanders. So this is the last Prove It week. If the Commanders win this one, man, that would be so insane. I'd love to see it, though. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out, though. This is the last week that I doubt Jaden Daniels. This is the last week that it's like the Prove It week, right? So I might have just unplugged my monitor. That's okay, though. Everything should be good. I'm starting to lose my voice. See, this is where a call-in would come in like perfectly good. I'll stop being a commander hater if they win this game. But if it's close, also like I will give my props to Jaden Daniels. But I'd like to see what he do against the Baltimore Ravens in their front seven and their secondary. I'd also like to see a Nate Wiggins versus Terry McLaurin matchup. I think that'd be awesome. So, yeah, Reggie, you want to take the whip with me? You want to take the whip? We're going to get a Reggie call in for the last segment of this. We can talk about the Bengals matchup with you. You got the Giants. I'm in the call-in whenever you're ready. Whenever you are ready. If I have it in the... All right. Whenever you're ready, brother. Whenever you are ready.
All right, can you hear me?
Holy shit, I had my audio turned all the way up. I can't hear you though, and I'm sure chat can hear you.
My headset.
All right.
So I can feel like I'm a coach calling plays.
No, that's fair. All right, so my next matchup is the first 2 o'clock game. We got the Chargers and the Broncos. Who do you got in this one, Reggie?
What? One sec. I'm switching to.
We got some technical difficulties, chat. Reggie, you good?
Okay, there we go. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect.
I could before.
Now I can have the. Okay, I can't play this stream while we're in the call because there's a horrible delay. What game are we talking about?
So the first 2 o'clock game is going to be the Chargers versus the Broncos. Chargers are coming off a bye week, and the Broncos are coming off a good win versus the Raiders.
You know, if you asked me 4 weeks ago, I would have said Chargers easy, but I'm starting to question that, if I'm being honest. The Chargers have just not looked good. And it's really upsetting because I was hopeful that they could have a better year this year, I'm just not seeing it. And then with how the Broncos performed last week and where their offense falls short, I think that something is really important about the Broncos, that their defense is thriving. Their defense is actually really strong. I think they have a sleeper defense that people are kind of ignoring. It's just their offense is so horrible they can't do anything with it. But I'm hoping Bo Nix can rally this team around, and honestly, I'm thinking Broncos over Chargers.
So I automatically picked the Chargers. And
See, that was my initial thought was Chargers. Is I jumped straight to
and
Chargers.
this
'Cause I
is
was
why.
like, of course
So
Chargers.
they lose a 1-score game to the Steelers with Justin Herbert going out, and then they lose a 1-score game to the Chiefs where they were at the 5-yard line and went for it on 4th down just because they wanted to get the touchdown because they knew Mahomes would be able to drive down the field and get a touchdown. They don't pick up the 4th down, and Mahomes drives down the field and gets a touchdown, and they win. So I think the Chargers...
And they are coming off a bye too.
Yeah, where I feel it is they're fresh.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Because I think
And the Broncos have played
I'm
really
just worried
good against...
I'm going to be disappointed by the Chargers just once
Yeah.
again.
I
keep
feel-
trying to put some faith into them.
Yeah, I feel like the Broncos have played some really stellar defense, but they also haven't played a quarterback like Justin Herbert. Like, the best quarterback
true.
they've played so far was Aaron Rodgers and Geno Smith.
I agree, actually. Now, you've turned me. I think
All
you're
right.
right. I think my initial feelings, I should have just gone with my gut feeling and said Chargers.
No, that's fair. So for the next matchup is the Steelers versus the Raiders. This is an awesome matchup because that's like the two fan bases, right? Like,
Yeah.
They're like the same fans. I'm sorry, Jeff. Happy birthday, but I'm taking the Steelers in this matchup.
I have Najee Harris on my fantasy, but I fucking hate the Steelers. But I also am not a fan of the Raiders. This one could go either way for me. It's hard for me to say either way, honestly. The Raiders just have not looked good, unfortunately, and their loss against both the Panthers and the Broncos, who everyone has said is like the two worst teams in the league, and they've lost to them.
I would
Whereas-
like to say they have been without Devontae Adams. Okay, so I
That's
did
true.
actually
That's
really
true.
want to talk about this. I did want to talk about the Devontae Adams situation, which I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but
No, it's okay. This is important.
do you have a team that you think he's going to get traded to? Because I think 100% he's getting traded. He's gone. He is able to play, and he's
I'm
good to go to
thinking-
play this week,
I'm
but he
thinking
probably
the
won't. just
Cincinnati
because of the trade.
Bengals.
All right, so I want some teams and why they're going to go to those teams.
I know a lot of people were saying Ravens, and I don't know where the hell that came from. I don't know why the Ravens would pick up Devontae Adams
So
with where
Devontae
they're at
Adams
right now.
did post a picture of Edgar Allan Poe.
I know that he did post that, but he doesn't really get a say in this. And why the hell would the Ravens pick up Devontae
Yeah.
Adams? Why? What do they need from Devontae Adams that they don't already have?
I do think that is true. I think
Like,
what I was
they'd
telling.
have to trade something for him. What are they
Yeah.
going to give up that would be worth Devontae Adams?
So what
That's-
I've seen
and that's
right
not-
now,
that's not a
the
shade to
market
Devontae Adams.
was a second round and like some chips, as in like some whatever players. But right now it's looking a little worse because his contract is horrific and he doesn't want to play there. So it's like a lot of other teams have a lot of leverage. So I think the trade would be easy to make for any team, but the contract is a really big problem because he's set to make $36 million next year, which is a contract that a lot of the teams that are getting thrown out around cannot do.
Yeah, that's a
they would have to
huge
either like
contract.
front load it or like extend him. And do you want to extend a 33-year-old wide receiver?
No,
So it's kind of like the Diggs thing where maybe you can wipe off the rest
And that's the
of
thing
the
is
contract.
I jokingly said Cincinnati Bengals, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
actually want Devontae Adams on my team. I'm a big believer in developing younger talent.
Yeah.
I've said it a million times. I think teams should take more risks. Instead, like Aaron Rodgers shouldn't be the Jets' like saving grace. I think teams now. I don't think they should play their first round draft picks just right off the bat and expect them to save the team. But I think they should take more risks and pick up some rookies and develop them over a year. I believe in building, like a future legacy and establishing your franchise, and I don't think Devontae Adams is going to be that for anyone. So unless you're just really hurting on wide receivers and have a bunch of money to spend, I don't really know why he would be the pick
Yeah.
for you.
I think he definitely still has a lot of juice left in him. Like,
Yeah, I think he
I
definitely
think
has
you
good
can get
years
2
left.
more good years, like really awesome years out of Devontae Adams. So I think a really awesome landing spot would probably be the Bills, which might be able to do the contract if they're able to restructure some things out with like Von Miller and whatnot.
Yeah,
But
I
also
think we
another
all just
team
want to
that's
see.
really suitable is the Commanders, the Steelers, and the
I was
Patriots.
gonna say the Commanders. That's what I was gonna say.
And
The
I
Commanders.
think I'm really hoping out because I traded Chris Olave yesterday, which it goes through tomorrow
Good call.
for
Good call.
Devontae
Huge
Adams.
bust.
Because I have a bunch of like wide receivers already, right? Like Chris Olave was just going to be on my bench probably for the rest of the year. So now I got to swing with Devontae Adams, who I think I'm very hopeful goes to the Bills or the Commanders. If he goes
Yeah,
to the
my
Steelers,
pick would be Commanders.
if he goes to the Steelers or the Patriots, it's probably over for him on my fantasy team. But that'd be really nice, I think, for Drake May's development. Having a wide receiver, at least for the start of your year, to throw to and lean on would
Well,
be really nice.
Also, I don't know, hot take. Sorry to these fan bases, but if he lands at like Steelers or Patriots, I think that might just be kind of it for his career. Like that's gonna be that, in my opinion, we're gonna be seeing just kind of a unfortunate last couple years for Devonte Adams if he lands at a team like that.
See, my thing with the Steelers is it also just doesn't really make sense. I think Brandon Ayuk would have been fine. What they really need is a guy that's like not super target heavy like that. Almost like the guy they traded away, Deontay Johnson, to the Panthers. So, which is one of the next games that we can talk about. But I took the Steelers over the Raiders. You took the Steelers over the Raiders. Next matchup is a really good game. It's a 2:00 game. Lions versus the Cowboys. Who do you got?
Lions.
I also smashed the Lions in this one. I don't think
Lions.
there's really much of a debate in this one. They might run for like 150, 200 yards in this
like
one.
Lions are just so much more put together than the Cowboys, in my opinion, and they were looking strong last year, and I was really hopeful for the Lions last year. I even picked them. I actually did pick the Lions for the Super Bowl last year. I was very wrong.
I did pick them this year. You weren't very wrong. They did go to the NFC Championship
That's
game.
true. That's true.
And they were like plays away from going to the Super Bowl.
I was working. I was working at my second job during the NFC Championship at the restaurant, and we had the game on in the kitchen, and I was just screaming the whole time because I was real hopeful. I wanted to see the Lions in the Super Bowl, and now with the Cowboys, I'll admit I'm biased, certified Cowboys hater, but the Cowboys are a very inconsistent team.
Yeah.
And they clutch up at the weirdest points, and like with their game against the Steelers, unexpected for a lot of people, but I just don't see them pulling it against the Lions. The Lions are looking too strong, too cohesive, and too well managed this year.
Yeah, I think the Lions have the better head coach. I think they have the better play calling. I think they have the better run game, the better wide receivers, the better offense and defensive line, and that combination should beat the Cowboys.
Yeah,
right?
I'm smashing the Lions on that one.
Unless if CeeDee Lamb has another masterclass like he did last year versus the Lions,
which is
where they were
totally
able to
possible.
squeeze out a win.
Which is very possible.
But the Lions also should have won that game because, like, they did have that pass to Taylor Decker for a touchdown that got called back because the ref messed up with the reporting stuff. So I think the Lions should win this one. Next up, we got the Falcons versus Panthers. I'm going to take the Falcons in this one. I don't have much to say about this.
I'm gonna take the Falcons. Kirk O'Chains is looking real strong. We're starting to see a comeback of Kirk, honestly.
I do want to start almost doing like preview and recap episodes like together, only because of like one, we're starting to get less games, and there's like games that like don't have much to talk about. Like there isn't much to talk about with the Panthers and Falcons, right?
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe Panthers will somehow pull this out of their ass.
Maybe like Kirk like chokes, but it's not a primetime game, which hasn't mattered.
It's also Kirktober.
It is Kirktober.
Kirk Cousins won't start choking till we're closer to playoffs.
It isn't. Yeah, it's not Kirk off, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, Falcons are legit. Not
Yeah.
like legit, like as in a Super Bowl contender, but like
Yeah,
as a
I don't
playoff
think they're a Super Bowl
contender.
contender, but they are much
They
stronger than I
might
thought the
win a
Falcons would be
playoff
this year.
game, and they
Um,
will not will, but might have a home playoff game as well. So.
Honestly, in the off season, I actually did not think the Falcons were gonna. After hearing all the trades, and when I heard that they picked up Kirk Cousins, when I heard Kirk Cousins left the Vikings to go to the Falcons, I was like, that's the end of Kirk's career. I did not think this was gonna happen. I'll admit, I was wrong. I was very wrong. I thought that this was just gonna be a huge bust for a team and a failure of just like grasping at straws for the Falcons. But I will admit, I was quite wrong. They're looking real good, but I still think this is a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
Maybe possibly even second round playoffs, but Kirk Cousins is.
Yeah, I think if they win their division and get that home field advantage round one, then that could be really huge for them. But they'd also be like matching up versus like the Seahawks or the Packers,
Yeah,
or,
exactly.
or the Eagles or Cowboys or something, right? So
Yeah, and Kirk is infamous for
yeah, like that
just
year that he
not
lost
being
to the
able to
Giants.
handle the playoffs.
So I remember the 4th and 6 check down or 4th and 9 check down to whoever it was at the time, Madison. Anyway, at any rate, we got the Bengals versus the Giants. I don't have a crazy ton of talk about this one. However, this is your team.
I need to see the Bengals beat the Giants. It's just so hard. It's so hard every week because I was talking so much game at the beginning of this season. I was talking about how Joe Burrow's back, Jamar Chase and T Higgins are looking real good, and I had full faith that this offense was going to be so strong. And what's upsetting is it is. We do have a very, very strong offense, but that is all we have. As you were talking about earlier, I watched Joe Burrow play his best ball. Like I saw Joe Burrow just playing like an MVP. I saw Heisman Joe Burrow on that field, but it just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. The Bengals are a mess, and I agree with Joe Burrow when he said this isn't a championship team. And so I need to see them win the Giants, so I'm gonna pick the Bengals, but I'm struggling to feel too hopeful, honestly.
Yeah.
I know Joe Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, and honestly Chase Brown. As a Chase Brown truther, I have faith in them. I do. I do not have faith in the play calling and the defense to be able to actually stand against the Giants at this point, which is so painful for me to say that I'm scared of the Giants of all teams.
Yeah, anything can happen. It is the NFL, but you got Jamar Chase, you got T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow, and Chase Brown, who's really coming into his own, who's now going to have the starting job, which over here on the channel we're big fans of, right? We love Chase Brown.
Yeah, we love Chase Brown. We love Chase Brown. Chase Brown truthers.
He's just so quick.
I'm so happy to see he got that starting job.
He's very explosive.
And he's someone I like watching to play. We were talking about that where, you can argue stats and all that all day. I just like watching Chase Brown play. I like seeing him on the field. He is very explosive, and I like to see him run the ball. And so I'm rooting for him. I want to see him really come into his own.
All right.
I just wish he was on a better team, I guess, even though this is my team. I wish my team was a better team.
Now, next up, we have the Bills versus the Jets. After the Saleh firing,
I'm
I don't
slamming
know
down
who
Bills.
they
I'm
named
exploding on
the
Bills.
interim head coach. Has that been named yet?
I haven't seen anything, but I also haven't Googled it, so I don't know.
Yeah, so they've had 2 rough weeks in a row. However, when's the last time an interim head coach lost his first ever game? I need to find that stat because I don't think it's happened in a long time. So that's why, voice crack, I am taking the Jets in this matchup, dude.
I don't have faith in the Jets, honestly.
Dude, I might not have cooked
even
with
though,
this, but the Bills are on a landslide right now.
You
I
are
feel
correct.
Like.
I can't. Every time I think of an interim coach stepping in, they do.
Last year's Antonio Pierce
have to prove themselves, and they pull it through, and then everyone goes, "Oh my gosh, is this the change?" And then a lot of times they just start to crumble right after that.
Danielson last year for
But
Boise State, interim head coach.
I still think the
Antonio
Bills have this.
Pierce.
I still think the Bills have. I am also a certified Aaron Rodgers hater. So I am
Herc
biased on
Rogers
this
hater.
one. And I just also I just want so badly to see Josh Allen win. If Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson could all just get a Super Bowl at the same time, I would be happy. If they could just all just somehow get a Super Bowl right now, I'd feel real good about that. Those are just three guys I want to see win, which is crazy to say as a Bengals fan that I'm rooting for Lamar Jackson as a division rival, but I really love Lamar and I want to see three of those guys succeed. So I would like to see Josh Allen make it to the top.
Yeah. So another coach that I think could be on the hot seat is Sean McDermott, the Bills head coach, and
I think I no, I
he
think
hasn't
that's
been
totally
able
fair.
to get any of the playoff success that you really want out of this team that should be able to go to the Super Bowl. Granted, they did have the AFC Championship game 4 years ago. So I think
Yeah,
it's coming to a point where it's like last year you fire your offensive coordinator, and now it's gonna be the coach.
well,
And maybe
honestly,
it
I
kind of
do
starts here where you're already
see
on the landslide, losing to the Ravens and
I
losing to the Texans.
I do see the Bills in a similar situation as the Bengals. Not quite as bad. Don't get me wrong. Not nearly as bad as the Bengals, but similar in that you have this all-star offense that should be putting up just numbers. But every year, and even the years where like this year where we thought the offense was gonna be strong, it's still just as strong. But they, like you're saying, they don't know how to lead through the playoffs. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. I think
Shakir being out last week was a really big deal. So like without Shakir, you're really lacking on your wide receiver weapons. Yeah, Cook is really nice, and cats are trying to get in here. Yeah, James Cook is really nice, and Dalton Kincaid has like been fine. He's not exactly what you wanted him to be, and Dawson Knox is still there. But like Kean Coleman isn't exactly like a superstar yet, right? He had a good play last week, right, versus the Texans, but the team hasn't come into their own. They don't have a lot of rhythm outside of like the Allen to Cook and Allen to Shakir stuff. So it was a little one dimensional last week, and I don't know if Shakir's playing versus the Jets, but if he's not, I think it'll be a little rough. And they have the interim head coach magic, so.
I guess we'll see on this one. We'll see if I'm calling in next week
Yep.
to tell you you're the biggest idiot in the world, or if you're
You
just.
might want to.
Who knows? Who knows? No, I do think it could go either way. But
Also, chat, I'm taking my headset off. I got a haircut, guys.
hell yeah, looking cute.
Rate the haircut.
I guess
Alright.
where it stands for me is I think the Bills, while I don't see them as I don't know if I don't think they're a Super Bowl team where they're at right now. I do see the Bills as a stronger playoff team right now than the Jets. So that's why I'm giving it to the Bills.
Yeah, I might be doing a little bit of wish casting right now on the Jets, but that's okay because I'm getting it right. I need to have my upsets.
You're
and
right.
This is
Hey,
the upset.
bro knows ball. So
Yeah, dude. I know how to luck pick and wish cast. So, how many points will be scored in this Bills Jets game? It's going to be 37, and that is correct. So that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you, Reggie, for calling in. Thank you for everybody that
course,
tuned
yeah.
in. And if you're watching on YouTube, and if you watched all the way up into this point, an hour and 10 minutes in, thank you so much. And we'll be back streaming again another day, getting another football talk. Maybe we can get some college football content. I'm not too sure. Or some film review. Who
Ashton
knows?
Genty for Heisman.
Ashton Genty's winning Heisman, boys. He's winning Heisman. So
Happy birthday, Jeff. Shout out Jeff.
shout out Jeff. Shout out Reggie. Shout out.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Shout out the people that watch.